Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So, we're in Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 21. I'll just read the Sanskrit, and then we'll do the word for word. If that's okay with everyone. Sarve vayam tavari hashmaheta kalevaram yavad asav vihaya lokam param vijaskam visokam yashatiyayam bhagavata pradanaha. Now the word for word is sarve, all. Vayam, of us. Tavat, as long. Iha, at this place. Ashmahe, shall stay. Ata, hereafter. Kalevaram, the body. Yavat, so long. Asau, the king. Vihaya, giving up. Lokam, the planet. Param, the supreme. Virashkam, completely free from mundane contamination. Vishokam, completely free from all kinds of lamentation. Yashyati, returns. Ayam, this. Bhagavata, devotee. Pradana, the foremost. The translation by Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual guide. I'll say it and then you can repeat after me. We shall all wait here. This is the sages that have come to see Parikshit Maharaj prepare for his final exit from this material realm. We shall all wait here. Until the foremost devotee of the Lord. Maharaj Parikshit returns to the supreme planet. Which is completely free from all mundane contamination. And all kinds of lamentation. So, we shall all wait here until the foremost devotee of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, returns to the supreme planet, which is completely free from all mundane contamination and all kinds of lamentation. Because it's only 2 verses they speak, I want to read them together, yesterday's and today. The sages said, O chief of all the saintly kings of the Pandu dynasty, who are strictly in the line of Lord Shri Krishna, is it not... Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna. The mercy of the Lord. O chief of all the saintly kings of the Pandu dynasty, who are strictly in the line of Lord Shri Krishna, with an exclamation point. It is not at all astonishing that you give up your throne, which is decorated with the helmets of many kings, to achieve eternal association with the personality of Godhead. Notice they already know where he's going. He's going to the supreme planet to associate with Krishna. We shall all wait here until the foremost devotee of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, returns to the supreme planet, which is completely free from all mundane contamination and all kinds of lamentation. The purport by Srila Prabhupada. Beyond the limitations of the material creation, which is compared to the cloud in the sky, there is the Paravyoma, or the spiritual sky, full of planets called the Vaikunthas. Just now I just remembered something that I heard one devotee saying in the memories, that, in the first Bhagavatam the Prabhupada brought sort of like this, but it was yellow. And it had the whole spiritual sky, like this, and then in the corner, there's this little cloud. And so they're looking at it and, really thinking everything's really neat and cool. Then they decided that the place that they wanted to be was in the cloud. They didn't know it was a cloud. They said, yeah, that looks like the coolest place right there. So they asked Prabhu, what's that place right there? And Prabhu said, that's the material world. That's where you are. They thought that's what they were attracted to. Yes, you passed the test. Such Vaikuntha planets are also differently known as the Purushottama Loka, Achyuta Loka, Trivikrama Loka, Rishikesha Loka, Keshava Loka, Anuruddha Loka, Maruva Loka, Pradyumna Loka, Sankushana Loka, Sridhara Loka, Vasudeva Loka, Ayodhya Loka. You know where that is? You know where that Ayodhya Loka is? Ramchandra's pastimes. Dvarka Loka, and many other millions of spiritual lokas wherein the personality of Godhead predominates. All the living entities there are liberated souls with spiritual bodies as good as that of the Lord. There is no material contamination. Everything there is spiritual, and therefore there is nothing objectively lamentable. They are full of transcendental bliss and are without birth, death, old age, and disease. And amongst all the above mentioned Vaikuntha Lokas, there is one supreme Loka called Goloka Vrindavan, which is called the abode of Lord Shri Krishna and his specific associates. Maharaj Parikshit was destined to achieve this particular Loka, and the great rishis assembled there could foresee this. All of them consulted among themselves about the great departure of the great king, and they wanted to see him up to the last moment, because they would not be able to see such a great devotee of the Lord. You will no more be able to see such a great devotee of the Lord. I'm having trouble with allergies or something. I don't know. When a great devotee of the Lord passes away into the kingdom of God, when a great devotee of the Lord passes away, there is nothing to be lamented, because the devotee is destined to enter into the kingdom of God. But the sorry plight is that such great devotees leave our sight. And therefore, there is every reason to be sorry. As the Lord is rarely to be seen by our present eyes, so also are the great devotees. The great rishis, therefore, correctly decided to remain on the spot to the last moment. So, the verse again is, we shall all wait here until the foremost devotee of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, returns to the supreme planet, which is completely free from all mundane contamination and all kinds of lamentations. Nama Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Pasai Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivase Shvasunam Nivadi Paskita Desatarni Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Bhakti Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. So, actually, let's keep this book here with me. What I was thinking about with this first, the verse says that you're going to get to go to the supreme planet, which is free from all mundane material contamination or mundane contamination and all kinds of lamentations. That's amazing. When you think about that. But it's like sometimes when if you've been in a place, a country, where there's a certain disease that's very, very contagious, you have to be in quarantine. You have to, because you're not showing the symptoms of the disease necessarily, but you don't know. You have to be careful because you've been amongst them. So you have to be quarantined, because we don't want that disease to spread. And then you won't be happy there. And nobody will be happy to see you. So, in a sense, we're in that quarantine stage. right now. What we're doing by practicing this process of bhakti yoga, we've decided, we've had the intelligence, we've been endowed with the sufficient intelligence to understand that Lord Chaitanya's movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large. We're very, very fortunate that we have come in contact with this movement, and we've had the intelligence to act on that and try to participate. And to the extent that we do participate wholeheartedly, then the Lord reciprocates, like it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatam mam papajante tam stataiva pajamyaham. As they surrender unto me, I shall reward them accordingly. Huh? Yes. So it's not how much you give, it's how much you don't, is what you hold back. If you exert yourself to do the minimum, then you get that. And if you do moderate, then if you fully absorb, then you do like that. So, but, actually, considering the instructions of Jagannath Das Babaji, who we believe today we're always a little confused about which day is the right day, but we think today is Jagannath Das Babaji's. We're in the variant zone. But we're also going to talk about Rasika Ananda tomorrow, just to cover both days. So Jagannath Das Babaji, he had some very strict policies about his sadhana. And his sadhana was incredible. But he said that if you set a certain number of rounds every day to do, and in our case, it's 16. Then, of course, if you're just starting and you're new here, and you're maybe only doing 4 rounds and gradually work your way up, but the minimum amount that Prabhupada requires is 16. And so Jagannath Das Babaji says that whatever that vow is you took, that must be followed every day, no matter what the circumstances, how ill you are. And if you can't, then you have to make that up. And he says, therefore, then, you are guaranteed success. But Jagannath Das Babaji, there's one program that he would do sometimes, or at least I've heard of this one, where he would go to Rishikesh in the summertime. So it wasn't so bad there then. And he'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He advises that you chant between 3 and 7 in the morning. And this is the one I didn't understand, but I'm not going to argue with the soul. That between sunset and 11. And the reason for that was because that's the hours of Lord Shiva, and he's a devotee of Krishna, and he comes to see everyone at that time, see what they're doing. But I'm not in that, because I get up at 12:30, 1 o'clock, something, 12 o'clock, something, whatever, somewhere in there. Then I chant my rounds. I always thought it was best to chant your rounds before Mangalartik. Anyway, chanting at night, I don't know. Anyway, so his program, he would do this every now and then, a certain type of special program. He wouldn't do this all the time, but we'd do it for 3 months. He'd have one room, and he'd get up at 3 in the morning, bathe, then he would go in the room and chant all day long. And he practiced mona, not speaking, only just chanting. Now, if he had to, attend to his bodily functions, he would leave the room, then come back. And then at the end of the day, then there would be some, prasad then at that point. And one time when he was doing this program, after 2 months in, by habit, he spoke to his servant, and that broke the the vow, because he was not just speaking, he wasn't just chanting Hare Krishna. He said something out of habit to his servant and or his associate, who was his disciple, and he started the whole thing all over again. So he did 5 months of that particular time. And if you start at just after 3 o'clock, whatever long it took to bathe and so on, then that's a very long day because it's the summer. You have a longer day. And by the way, I think this weekend is clock time.
Yes. Yeah, same ahead.
Yeah, so we are doing it in March instead of April. So we go ahead.
So we're doing it all.
Spring
Necessarily.
forward, fall back.
Yes, so we spring forward.
Get up earlier.
Yay!
It's right up your alley.
So it's not easy. It's not easy. So and then back to the contamination part. That's the other part, is that we're in a place that you're either up on the heavenly planets and you're bouncing around weightlessly in space, everything's great and wonderful, or you're moderately, everything bitter and so on, and then, or you're down, deep down. And in the material world, like I remember when they first went to the moon, they came back and they had to be set aside. They had to go through a, what do they call that? When someone comes up from the bottom of the earth?
Quarantine.
Not a quarantine, no, it's a decompression, right. So same thing when they came from the moon, they said that they had to, because they may bring back germs from the studio where the moon. So I think they had to just make sure that these guys had their story in line, So, or else, well, I don't know, who knows how they did it. But in any case, so let's not go down that road.
The Kubrick road.
So, but if you could, there was one woman who worked for the devotee art business, Touchstone, and her husband would, he worked off the big oil rigs out in the coast, in the Gulf. Mm-hmm. And he would stay down for a week at a time. They have these submarine things, little labs down there. Wow. And sometimes a week or 2 weeks.
I didn't know they did that.
Oh yeah. I didn't either, but her husband used to do it. And that's mega dangerous, but also mega, who knows what they paid him, but it was supposed to be, it's high risk, high pay. So then you have to, but even after he comes up, you have to come up very slowly, you have to decompress. Mm-hmm. So in this material world, it's sometimes, when you're sleeping, you go in all kinds of crazy places, mm-hmm. and crazy situations. And lately I've been having this situation where I'll say, in the dream, I actually say, I don't want to be here anymore. I think it's time to wake up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, just get out of here. Wow, I'm glad that's over. Oh, I'm still here though. No, I'm not home yet. Back to Godhead. So no, it's better than where I just came from. And or sometimes, I remember going to these carnivals, and you go into some of these things like the House of Horrors or the House of Mirrors, or even the rides like the Ferris wheel of Samsara. Round and round you go. Changing from one body to another. Can you imagine having a ride like that? You start here, and then you go up to a demigod, and you get to the top, and then you just fall back down into the lower species, and get off the Ferris wheel of Samsara! And off that ride. Whoa, it's good to... And then you go into some of these House of Horrors, and when you get out, you're just like, oh God, I didn't need that anxiety. Get me out of here, God, this place is... this is literally a place we come to rot. If you just don't bathe for a day or two, You become kind of unpleasant to be around. I mean, what to speak of, you just were gradually... I saw this one thing, a video recently, by a country western singer, and it was a song called Humble and Kind. And he was, I was really surprised by it, and I guess I was in Maya. But he was showing all these different faiths and ethnicities. And he showed a lot of people at the Kumbh Mela. He showed a lot of Shiites and things like that. But, the Muslims and the Christians and Americans and African Americans and Oriental Americans and all kinds of, And then at the end, they showed this person's face, starting from very young. And they just rapidly showed the aging of that face. And then how it goes from very young, hopeful, and then slowly, stronger, and then gradually diminishing until it turns look like that. Just rots away. We're in the land of, where everything is deteriorating. Everything is crumbling all around us. You get another chance, but then you have to go back through it again. And it's a very bitter pill to take. It's very sour. Like it says, whatever is bitter in the beginning, or sour in the beginning, it turns out to be sweet. I had hepatitis A once back in 1976. Some devotee came back from India with it, and we had gone to Murari Seva for Janamasami, and he cooked, and we did. But the first 2 weeks, you don't know you have it.
Right.
And you don't show any symptoms, but that's when you're contagious. And so, once you show the symptoms, you're no longer contagious. Like, it's a very interesting, nice little trick there that Maya's come up with, And everybody, except for about 3 people or 4 people who stayed back, didn't get it. The whole temple had hepatitis. And it's true, we got like rock candy, and because there's no cure for it. And you put that rock candy in your mouth and it tastes very bitter. Very, very bitter. But as you're getting better, it starts to taste sweet again. So similarly in Krishna consciousness, sometimes it's very bitter in the beginning. I remember I really struggled with, I used to go to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get up. And, staying awake during class. There was one time I was in a class, and the person giving the class, he was the GBC, really important devotee, and he says, Gerard, wake up. I said, I'm not sleeping. He said, what were we talking about? Krishna. Ha ha ha. Yeah, right. So, anyway, but no, it's hard. I also I was at New Vrindavan in 1972, and there was no facility. It was a wonderful ecstatic program, and you just had to find the back of a car or under it, and sometimes it was muddy and stuff. There was no houses, or if you were lucky, you brought a tent. So all I know is one of my godbrothers comes and he wakes me up, and it's like the sun is coming up. I said, what happened? Why didn't you get me from Mangalartik? And he said, I did. I said, no, you didn't. He said, yeah, no, I did. You said you were going to do it in your mind this morning. You said, I'm doing Mangalartik in my mind this morning. I have no memory of it. Early Alzheimer's, I think. But no, it's, you struggle through those things. Now I'm getting up at this ridiculous hour in the morning, and it's becoming relishable. I don't know if it means I'm making advancement or I'm just getting strange. But I just, because it didn't happen, but it's just happening. It's just happening. And what the point is that, the beginning, things are bitter in this material world. And that bitterness, the things that cause us to suffer are the things that cause us to take shelter. So it's a benediction. Like here, Parikit Maharaj, He's been sentenced to die. That's his punishment for just doing a simple thing of putting a snake garland around this one sage. The young boy, an immature boy, sentences him to die. Whereas he forgave Kali for beating a cow. Because Kali surrendered falsely, but he surrendered to save his neck. He was relishing it because he knew that this meant I can go back to the land of no lamentation. Well, because no one there's no fear in the spiritual world. There's no age, old age. Right now, we have lost what we had. What we had bliss. We had knowledge. We had eternity. Eternally young. Forever young. And we lost all that to come here and try to be the center of attention, to try to be the center, to try to be the controller, the supreme Ishwar. Because we have those qualities of Krishna, we try to act on them. And that's free will. And Krishna doesn't want to force his love on. He wants us to love him out of our own choice, our own free will. It's not forced. So, he arranges the material world in such a way that it's bitter. And those things help us to come closer and back to home, back to him. So, on this day, specifically, Jagannath Das Babaji, he is a very important personality in our line, and it's said that because one thing that's really important is chanting our rounds attentively. That meditate and studying when you're reading the books, do it attentively, hearing them, studying, not just read. What did you just read? I don't know. I just. Walk out of the class. Well, what was it about? I don't know. It was pretty interesting. I can't remember. But, you have to, be attentive. Absorb ourselves, because what we're thinking of at the time of death, that will, and we never know when it's going to happen. So, you could be just going through a green light, and a pickup truck at 65 miles an hour can T-bone you, take you out. So you just don't know when something is going to, when that moment's going to come. And if you're practicing attentively, and so Jagannath Das Babaji, he's a person that it's recommended by Vaishnavas, if you want to improve your rounds, you pray to him. Because he was expert at chanting his rounds. And he was very attentive about chanting his rounds. One time, it had been 3 days when he's practicing Nirjal. No water, no food. And it wasn't any specific reason. He was just chanting. And his servant said, started to get up to go somewhere. And he says, where are you going? He says, well, it's been 3 days. You have nothing, no food, nothing to drink. I'm going to go get something for you. And he said, stop being on the bodily platform and sit down and chant your rounds. Take shelter of your rounds. Take shelter of the holy name. So they sat down and chanted some more. And then people just came. Started coming and providing them. I'll just wait till the conversation. So then people just started to come. To provide food and drink. Without being in anxiety about it. One time a man, he was being carried. He was so old at the end of his life that he was being carried around in a basket. I think he lived to be like 146, something like that. His body was like a semicircle. He was covered over like that. You see, round, and you see the picture of him on the altar. It's our spiritual master, the founder of Acharya A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Then we have Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. Then Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, and I believe Gaur Kishore Das Babaji is a disciple of Jagannath Das Babaji. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he had another initiating guru, but his Shiksha guru was Jagannath Das Babaji. He comes next in our line to civic succession, and then we have the 6 Goswamis here on our on an altar. And Jagannath Das Babaji, so he's being carried around in a basket. And he was being carried through Navadvip. And someone walks by and puts a rupee down on the basket. And they go a few blocks or a kilometer or two. And then he stops and says to his servant, take that rupee and go find the person and return it. And tell him it's too heavy for us to carry. And the lesson here is that this was just like sort of like a pious thing to do. It wasn't like for this person to give a rupee was not a big deal. It wasn't a sacrifice. He just did it like a pious thing. And he was, if he's really sincere and wants to really sacrifice and make some offering, he should do it with more devotion and more sincerely, and not just some pious act like that. He didn't want to take it back. But then at the same time, one time he was, I think he's the one, he gave a donation to a street sweeper. And everyone was aghast by this. Why would you do that? Why would you give it? He said, don't you understand? This was in Brajadam, in Vrindavan. Because he would spend his time in Vrindavan and in Mayapur. And in those days, Mayapur, I didn't realize this, that was like a jungle. And when the first devotees started going there they saw a Bengal tiger there. But the tiger just kept going, saw that there's no threat and there was no problem. And what was I talking about? I forgot.
Donation.
Yeah, the donation, yeah. And then
he was spending time in Mayapur and Vrindavan.
Yeah, Mayapur and Vrindavan. And so he gave it, and the people were saying, why you give a donation to the street cleaner? And it's don't you understand that when Lord Krishna came to this Vrindavan, he asked something like 88,000 sages to come over the generations to keep Vrindavan clean. And some of these people are either those sages or the direct descendants of those sages. These people are there constantly. He's cleaning the dust of all the great souls that have traversed in Vrindavan. This, he didn't see according to external materialistic roles. He saw according to the heart, the devotion. At one point, he's eating prasadam and some dog puppies started to eat off his plate. And his servant, shooed them away. Go away. And he said, what are you doing? He said, well, those are baby dogs. Those are puppies. You can't, they're contaminated. He said, those are inhabitants of Vrindavan, the holy Dham. Like I remember hearing Gurudas say that when he and Jamuna came to Vrindavan, they were the first ones there, or amongst the first, and they cleaned Prabhupada's room in Radha Damodar, and there was all these cobwebs in the corner. And when Prabhupada came in, he said, where's the spiders? He said, well, we cleaned it for you, Prabhupada. He said, those were my friends. They've been here for many generations. You can't do that. This is their home. Don't ever do that again. I can't understand that myself, but I try to, this is a different vision. We can't, when we hear these kinds of things, we can't imitate. Sometimes, like, we've seen devotees, when we talking about how, like, Raghunath Das Goswami had such a severe, not severe, but very extreme, his taking a prasadam, he was eating, fallen pieces of grain in the field. He wasn't having regular meals. That was his meals at one point. You can't imitate that. I've seen devotees try to imitate that, and it's they do damage to their body. You can't artificially. If you hear how Jagannath Das Babaji went into one room and spent from 3:30 in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning till sunset, chanting just rounds, no eating, no drinking. We can't pretend to do that sort of thing. we should just do our program, but do it with full vigor, full intensity. Then we can be qualified to get to the... We have to become completely, disease-free. And that is only Krishna and Super Soul and Guru is the only one who can say whether our heart is prepared, our heart and mind are prepared, that we can enter into the spiritual abode. Because if we went back to Krishna Loka right now, we would not be happy. I mean, maybe we would. I mean, I shouldn't say that as a grand statement. But I mean, if you're not prepared, if you're not, some devotees would sometimes want to be in this Prabhupada's direct service, but they found it too difficult because they weren't really prepared. So we have to prepare ourselves by going through the decompression of this process of Bhakti Yoga. I'll tell you a quick story also about Jagannath Das Babaji. One time, someone walked in and asked, "Can you perform a miracle?" And he said, "No, I can't. I don't do any tricks. No, I don't know any tricks." And but then all of a sudden he picked up a stick and he started beating the ground. So the man who had asked, was frightened and thought he had offended him. And he started to get up and leave. And Jagannath Das Babaji said, No, come here, it's not you. No. I saw him, and they're in Navadvip. And Lokanath Maharaj's Samadhi is in Vrindavan. He said, I saw a goat was about to eat the tulsi plant outside of Lokanath Maharaj's Samadhi. And I was beating the ground to scare the goat away. So the man didn't know how to respond to that. So immediately, he had a friend who was there in Vrindavan, and he telegraphed him. And that person verified that at that moment, when he was beating the ground, this goat was about to eat the tulsi outside of Lokanath's place, and he was frightened off for some reason. And his servant, Jagannath Das Babaji's servant, asked, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Well, they came here to see some magic, some tricks. So I thought I'd, show them, fulfill their desire. Show them, not in a grandiose way, like I'm going to give you some gold, produce gold from your ears or something like that. Or, So, but the main thing about Jagannath Das Babaji is that he's the person who confirmed the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because in Bhakti Vinod Thakur's time, he was trying to... he was sure that actually the Lord's birthplace was in the wrong place. At that time, it was on, I guess that's the western bank on that side, where Navadvip is. Right? Or is that the eastern side? But... So that, anyway, they thought, because you're looking, you see the east is there. So, anyway, whatever side they are on, Navadvip, that town was only, actually, when they looked through the records, it was only like 100 years old, that we now call Navadvip. And that couldn't be the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. And there is a place there now that they say, and back then, that was the only place that people thought was Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. But Bhakti Vinod was positive that it was on the other side of the river, where the Yoga Pit is right now, the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. He did all this, he looked through all the records and all the maps and all the different references, and and then he found this one place where there were all these tulsis growing wild, and it's the way he could verify what Jagannath Das Babaji was the topmost Vaishnava authority at that time, living. And I believe at the time when he did the verification, he was, I'm not sure if he was in 120 or 142 years, something like that. He was very elderly. But Bhaktivinoda first met him when he was 113 years old. So, somewhere in that time frame, I believe. So, when he was being carried in a basket, and these ages I could be off by, but in any case, we know that he's very old. They carry him in a basket, bent over, and then when they got to the spot where they thought it was the birthplace, he just leapt out of the basket and started dancing and jumping up and down. He was known to do this. Even at this advanced age, he would jump up out of the ground, out of the basket, and start dancing in ecstasy. Once, when Bhaktivinoda first met him, they had an 11-day festival, and he was like 113, 115 years old at that time. 11-day festival, just chanting and reading Shastra for those, doing bhajan and, for 11 days. And I believe that was in Vrindavan when that happened. So, these days are very, it's like it said in the purport, what is lamentable is that we don't have their association, we can't see them. But we have the instructions that they've given, the Vani. And that's what, has given us the ability to understand and to be inspired by their example. And they also have given us the actual authentic teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhaktivinoda found the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Orissa and was able to translate it and present it, and then Srila Prabhupada gave it to us in English. So all of these things are being done for us. And if it wasn't for these great personalities like Jagannath Das Babaji and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we would never know any of this. We would never have any opportunity to get to the world of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, where there's no lamentation, where there's no fear, there's no death, no old age. That is what we're hankering for. Otherwise we'll just stay here continuing to taste the bitter pill of what Maya has to offer. Anyone have anything they'd like to add? Yes?
I think there's an interesting comment about the spiders. Just wanted to comment about, you never take anything for granted. You think you know somebody and just something simple like that. But my question is about age. Yeah, I noticed like even in the Bible, like, when I used to read it a lot, you can see people live to like 900 years.
Yeah.
And
Abraham did.
Yeah, it doesn't really show that break. There's something in the Bible that's missing. That they don't show how you go from 900 to 100 to where it's about like 80 now, and the flukes, people who live.
Well, that was still at the end of kind of like the end of Dwapara Yuga, I think, at that point. Because when you live to 1,000. I think there was a flood in between, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not so knowledgeable about all the Old Testament things, but there's many people, I've seen a list of many personalities besides Abraham, between 600 to 900 years old in that time frame. And then, you're right, there are some people later on that are like 150, 160, and gradually you start to see like 100, like that. But there's obviously something a point in time where it went from Dwapara Yuga to Kali Yuga. But it's there. It's there in their own scripture.
That's the point I was trying to make. It's in their own scripture, but I've never seen them show the similarities to where they could have some type of mutual agreement that there is some type of connection between
I know. It would be nice if there was some appreciation. I don't know if anybody, maybe some of the devotees that are, in theology departments in, these big universities. There are many devotees now, a few like in Berkeley and in Oxford and Cambridge that may have had the opportunity in some of these interfaith moments. I don't know if that's, happened, that's transpired. That would be a good point. Anything else?
Can I say something?
Yes.
Trying to say it in a way that it's understandable. Like we're reading about Maharaj.
So was I. I was trying to be understandable.
You are. My way of talking.
That's all right. No, go ahead.
What I'm thinking about is like Maharaj Krishna is such a glorification that is ready to hear the Bhagavatam and then go back to the spiritual world, back to where Krishna is. And what came to my mind was I'm reading in the fourth canto of Dhruva Maharaj, and how when he was ready to go to the plane where the Nanda and Sunanda were going to take him to the Vaikuntha, Prabhupada was explaining how his body became spiritual. It was golden. It was effulgent, and how he, when death personified, was coming. As we were saying, and Prabhupada was saying, to offer respects. That Dhruva Maharaj stepped on his head. He was like fearless to go to where where Sunanda and Nanda were taken to the.
He went on a plane, didn't he?
Yeah, beautiful. Like Prabhupada also explains how the planes of these days, modern day, is not comparable to the planes like you see, like with Kashyapa and Devahuti, and there's like lakes and houses and mansions and all these wonderful and beautiful things. And the other thing was that he was concerned about his mother, and so how you see how Krishna again is reciprocating with him and fulfilling his desire, because like further, you see his mom and his mother in
And another plane, she had her own plane, yeah. That's not, Prabhupada said that he took the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death. He overcame death. Anything else? Okay. Jai Shri Gornitai, Jai Shri Radha Kanta, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Jagannath Das Babaji ki Jai, Hare Krishna.